So when I got my spoiler for Dusk Till Dawn, the Bastion of Unity, it certainly implied at least a release of a primary one-handed weapon. And while that may happen in the future, it did not in this set, which means that in order to use this warrior shield, we need to get a little creative. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks for tuning in once again today. I hope all of your Dusk Till Dawn stuff's been going well. Some of those early games may be going in your favor, or at least maybe you're learning. And one of those things that came out of Dusk Till Dawn was, again, the spoiler that we had here on Dice Commando. Thank you to Legend Story Studios. The Bastion of Unity, one-handed, offhand, implying the use of a one-hand. It's a shield for the warrior. Now, certainly, we were hoping that we would get a primary type weapon. That did not happen, which means that we have to, if we want to use this, we have to use something that exists. So really, as we talk about that and kind of theory craft that today, which is what I want to do, it's the point of the episode. First, we have to ask the question, is it worth it? And the question is maybe, kind of, probably not, right? I mean, right now you're looking at with a card from hand, right, for good defense. So only, again, applicable in certain decks, and certainly you don't have to equip it. And Blitz is in the middle of the experiment right now, so we'll see how that whole thing flushes out in terms of using up the space on your sideboard, I guess we'll call it at this point. So we'll see how that all flushes out. But right now, in many cases, I think it's only fair to say that right now it's really probably not worth using the shield in many cases. That said, I think an argument can be made for how to make it good. Like, again, if you are someone who wants to try a sword and board shield, sword and board warrior, excuse me, it basically, when I look at this, I think it's essentially the same as really trying to run Saber, Dagger, or Dorinthea in terms of overall concept, right? It's not better than a lot of other stuff, but it can catch people off guard, and you could probably pull down some legit armory wins, maybe even against some good people, if you have your deck tuned right and play right. So that's kind of the approach I wanted to take tonight. Now, best format for this, hands down, I mean, just do the math. It's Blitz, right? If you are going to sit down with a bigger fridge, you want to sit down with bigger health, that 3 health effective on the shield matters far more in Blitz than it does in Classic Constructed. There's zero question there. Not really debatable. So for the rest of this conversation, that's what we're going to be focusing in on, really honing in on, is the Blitz aspect of it. Now we go into the hero portion of this. Who's the best hero to use this? Well, let's really think about that. Okay, you could have Kassai. Boltyn, right? Boltyn probably doesn't really work with this because he wants to either run Raiden or he wants to go all combo wombo, in which case you want both of the Cintauri Sabers, okay? And that leaves us with the other 2 warriors that we have, which is Kassai, who allows you to get your second sword swing for free, but you only have 1 sword, and those swords are once per turn. So that leaves us with who? None other than my favorite, everyone else, many people's favorite, my girl Dorinthea. She's the correct answer, because if you are able to hit with that one-handed sword, well, you're going to be able to swing with it again. And that's the right answer, and that really dictates a lot on how I think we build this deck. Now, the weapon part, this is a super easy conversation. The correct answer, based on what we have in the pool right now, is absolutely 100% the Cintauri Saber. What else are you going to use? Well, you could use an axe, but why would you, honestly, right? Because you're not going to use, the only reason to use the body and mind hatchets, there we go. The reason to use those is to go one or the other and then the other one, right? And try to do the thing and make them bigger over time. Just keep coming. But you can't do that because you only run one of them with the shield. So what are we left with? Cintauri Saber. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So we're running with, which is kind of cool because if you think about it with Dorinthea, sure, I mean, and to be clear, Saber's Dorinthea has been a thing. Now, sure, you run them with both, and then you try to do the 3 swing thing, and it's very resource intensive. not always been my thing. But now we have a Kassai-esque, it's not free on the backside, but you have a Kassai-esque approach with an extra essential 3 health. Essentially 3 health. You still have to use card from hand. Again, you all get it. But you can swing with that Saber again, and with the Cintauri Saber, if they block it with the wrong card, that +1 carries for the turn. Right? Again, you're kind of bringing back the essence of Saber, Dagger, Dorinthea, kind of the bonus of that, of getting 2 swings on it. Now, that's actually not horrible, right? When you start doing the math on that, as long as you can make it work. So let's start talking playstyle and strategy overall and how we approach this. Well, Blade Runner and Run Through are insane cards. And that's when I started putting the deck list together for this. By the way, the deck list is available as of the time of this on the 2 members on Dice Commando. So if you want to check that out, you can join up and join us. We'd love to have you. But from a overall perspective, where I really started at was my Kassai list. There were a lot of things that didn't map to this 1-for-1, like probably not playing Slice and Dice because you can't guarantee the second swing. Instead, you need to lean, let's go ahead, down 1. You lean really heavily into reacts because you force them. That's the idea, is that you force your opponent to block you, because if you have to hit to get that second swing. So if you're pushing forward and then you react with like a Blade Runner or something like that, or a Run Through, which are crazy good cards, if they let it hit, you get to swing again, so they want to block you. So what do? We lean heavy into our reacts. It's been a long time since I've played Rainbow Iron Song Response in a deck, and I think this is the deck to play it in, right? Because you're going to be able to force them to spin the cards to stop you from doing what you essentially want to do. And then if you lean heavily into Reprise, well, I'm not saying necessarily lean heavily into Reprise, but that's kind of where Warriors Reacts are, is Reprise. So it lets you take advantage of that. And now you have an interesting thing where you're forcing them with this single swing to stop you. It's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Now, I do want to point out that this deck itself is going to be obviously more resource intensive than Kassai. I mean, duh, that's how it works. So you're going to be playing more blues. My current Kassai deck plays 10 blues, but that's high. And again, we're talking Blitz. That's higher than I would like, but we have a Kano heavy meta. Generally, Dorinthea Blitz decks are playing 12 or 13 blues. I think that's probably the right answer in this case. And again, you can run Glints. That drops your cost curve a little bit. Hit and Run Blue is a great one. So you have those ones in there naturally anyway. The ones I think you skew away from, that like a lot of the Quicksilvers runs, I don't think you're running like a Precision Press or something like that, because then they're just going to heavy block it and you might not be able to get over top. And, we'll see how that all goes. But I think ultimately that's what your play style is some sort of free pump. And remember, we have both Sharpened Steel and Outland Skirmish at our disposal. 2 0-3 front pumps. Those are very good. So you're coming in for 5 threatened 6 with stuff on the backside. Are they really going to block all of that? Probably they're going to try to, and then you come over the top. Now, that kind of the trap on your side there is that now you got to come up with, it's the Dorinthea problem, right? You got to come up with the extra resource somewhere to do it. So maybe you are, kind of doing the Dorinthea thing. Maybe you are looking at E-Pots or something like that on the back. I mean, again, we're going to lean very heavily into Blade Runner and Run Through and stuff like that, where it actually will give you the back pump. So I think you're not doing like the Quicksilver Dagger thing where you're running 0-4s. I think you have to pretty much be strictly weapon on this one. But again, I think at some point, roughly 75-80% of the deck actually starts building itself for you. Because again, it's Blitz, you only have 40 cards, you have to have 13-14 blues, you have to have your go-agains. Probably not playing Driving Blade in this, you're going to lean heavily into your reacts. And again, it's Dorinthea, so stuff like Overpower can still get the job done, right? I'm talking like blue Overpower. You have a lot of options at your disposal, plus you have all of her tricks, all of her specializations at your disposal. Now, well, not all, to be fair, because some of them do specifically say Dawnblade. In fact, some of the newer ones specifically say Dawnblade. So that's not going to work in this case, but those are by and large the ones you won't want anyway. The one that is up in the air for me is Singing Steelblade. I'm actually not sure with how this works. I'm actually not sure that you're going to... It's a great reaction. People have been running it forever for obvious reasons. I'm actually not entirely sold on that working in this particular build. But again, the Dorinthea rep folks can let me know if they think that, a lot of people play Dorinthea differently than I do. And this is not a Dawnblade build. This is a swing twice build and force them to block build. And I really like the concept here of forcing them to block because you only have one. And they know you can't come again if it hits. And then you trigger reprise. So again, I'm leaning real heavily. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've played yellow Iron Sign Response in a warrior deck, and I think this is that deck. So anyway, that's kind of my take overall. Now, again, I want to circle back to the first bullet. Is it worth it? Honestly, right now, probably not, right? Well, not probably not, but maybe not. I think in an ideal world with this, what you really want to do is have some sort of primary one-handed weapon that swings for 2 so that you can pitch a blue and front pump it. Right? That's kind of, in my head, that's the ideal world of this, is being able to plow through or dauntless into a 2-3. So you're coming in for 5-6, depending on how it works, threatening something, maybe an on hit, maybe we get some more stuff. Either way, I think that's really the end of it, where you can, basically have one pitch card from hand, one from hand, come in for a 2 block required for breakpoint. Maybe threaten on hit, maybe not. Either way, I think that's really the sweet spot. I don't think we're there yet. Could absolutely happen in the future. Almost certainly will happen in the future. The question is not if, it's when, right? And yeah, I think we'll see where we go from there. But that doesn't mean this won't work. It's obviously not ideal to where I would like to play, but there's an interesting concept behind it. So anyway, folks, thanks for sticking with me to this point. Like I said, just kind of a theory crafting episode, having a little fun, trying to figure out how to actually use the Bastion of Unity in a build. And I think the answer is Dorinthea, Cintauri, Saber, Sword, and Board, at least for right now. So anyway, thanks for joining me. If nothing else, folks, go Commando.